On March 15, 2016, three experienced cave divers from the United States mysteriously vanished during an exploration expedition in the underwater cenotes of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, leaving behind only questions that would haunt their families and baffle authorities for 7 long years. The team consisted of Dr. James Harrison, a 42-year-old marine biologist from Florida who had over 20 years of cave diving experience, Rebecca Martinez, a 35-year-old underwater photographer from California known for her stunning cenote documentaries, and Michael Thompson, a 38-year-old diving instructor from Texas who specialized in technical cave diving and had explored over 200 underwater cave systems worldwide. The trio had arrived in the small town of Tulum 5 days earlier to explore the Dos Ojos cenote system, one of the most complex and challenging underwater cave networks in the world, planning to map previously unexplored passages and document unique geological formations for scientific research. That morning, they had entered the water at 9 a.m. with full technical diving gear, underwater cameras, and mapping equipment, telling their surface support team they expected to return by 4 p.m. after exploring a newly discovered passage that local guides believed connected to the vast underground river system. Where are you reading from? Share your city and country in the comments before we continue this story. Their dive plan was meticulously prepared, including decompression stops, emergency procedures, and backup air supplies, following all safety protocols that had kept them alive through hundreds of previous cave dives in challenging conditions around the world. When the divers failed to surface by their planned return time and emergency search teams found no trace of them despite extensive underwater searches, the incident became one of Mexico's most perplexing diving disappearances, attracting international attention and mobilizing cave diving experts from around the globe. 7 years later, the discovery of their bodies in a previously unknown cave chamber would finally reveal the truth about their fate and expose secrets hidden deep beneath the Yucatan jungle that had remained buried for centuries, changing our understanding of the ancient Mayan civilization and the dangers that still lurk in the depths of Mexico's underwater world. The immediate search and rescue operation, coordinated by the Mexican Navy and international cave diving experts, revealed the extreme challenges of locating missing persons in one of the world's most complex underwater cave systems, where visibility can drop to zero and passages can extend for miles in complete darkness. Captain Luis Mendoza of the Mexican Navy's Special Diving Unit led the search efforts, mobilizing more than 50 professional cave divers from Mexico, the United States, and Europe, who volunteered their expertise to locate the missing team despite the significant personal risks involved in searching such treacherous underwater terrain. The Dos Ojos cenote system consisted of over 40 miles of mapped underwater passages, with water temperatures of 77 degrees year-round and crystal-clear visibility that could extend over 300 feet in normal conditions. But the system was notorious for its complex layout, sudden depth changes, and areas where silt could create zero visibility conditions that had trapped and killed divers in the past. Search teams discovered that Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson had followed their planned route for the first 2 hours of their dive, with their underwater slates found at a junction point showing they had successfully reached their intended exploration area and were proceeding according to their original plan. However, beyond that point, no trace of the divers could be found despite systematic searches of every known passage, side tunnel, and chamber within a 5-mile radius of their last known position, leading investigators to suspect they had discovered and entered a previously unknown section of the cave system. The diving equipment recovered from their last known location showed no signs of malfunction or damage, and their air supply calculations indicated they should have had sufficient breathing gas to safely return to the surface, even if they had encountered minor delays or navigation challenges. Local Mayan guides who had been diving in the cenotes for generations reported unusual water movements and sounds coming from deep within the cave system in the days following the disappearance, describing phenomena they had never experienced before and attributing them to spiritual disturbances caused by the missing divers. The search operation continued for 6 weeks, with teams exploring every accessible passage and even attempting to locate potential new entrances to the cave system through ground-penetrating radar and geological surveys. But the vast underground network seemed to have swallowed the 3 experienced divers without leaving any clues about their fate. The families of the missing divers established a permanent search base in Tulum, coordinating with local authorities and international experts while offering substantial rewards for any information that could lead to the recovery of their loved ones. But despite their efforts, the case gradually shifted from active search and rescue to missing persons investigation, as hope of finding the divers alive diminished with each passing month. The 7 years following the disappearance were marked by the unwavering determination of the families to maintain search efforts and keep international attention focused on the case, transforming their personal tragedy into a mission to improve cave diving safety and support other families facing similar losses. Dr. Harrison's wife, Dr. Sarah Harrison, a fellow marine biologist, took a leave of absence from her university position to coordinate search efforts and work with Mexican authorities, establishing the International Cave Diving Safety Foundation that provided resources, training, and support for cave diving operations worldwide. Rebecca Martinez's parents, Roberto and Maria Martinez, used their retirement savings to fund continuing search expeditions, hiring specialized cave diving teams and underwater robotics experts to explore areas of the cenote system that were too dangerous for human divers, while also working with documentary filmmakers to keep their daughter's story in the public eye. Michael Thompson's brother, Navy SEAL veteran David Thompson, organized annual memorial dives that brought together hundreds of cave divers from around the world, creating a community of support while also serving as training exercises that improved cave diving techniques and safety protocols for future expeditions. The 3 families worked together to establish new international standards for cave diving safety, including mandatory buddy system protocols, improved communication equipment, and standardized emergency response procedures that were adopted by diving organizations in more than 20 countries. The case inspired the development of new underwater communication technologies and tracking devices specifically designed for cave diving, with several companies donating cutting-edge equipment for ongoing search efforts, while also making these innovations available to the broader diving community. Mexican authorities, under pressure from the families and international diving organizations, conducted annual searches of the cenote system using increasingly sophisticated technology, including sonar mapping, underwater drones, and even experimental robots capable of navigating tight cave passages that were inaccessible to human divers. The story of the missing divers became a popular subject for documentary filmmakers and investigative journalists, generating international awareness about the risks of cave diving, while also highlighting the beauty and scientific importance of Mexico's underwater cave systems and their connection to ancient Mayan culture. Local communities in the Yucatan Peninsula, initially concerned that the tragedy might damage their diving tourism industry, instead embraced the family's safety initiatives and worked to make their cenotes safer for all visitors while preserving the natural beauty that attracted divers from around the world. Despite all these efforts and the substantial resources invested in the search, the fate of Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson remained one of the diving world's greatest mysteries, until a chance discovery in 2023 would finally provide answers that shocked the international scientific community and revealed secrets that had been hidden beneath the Yucatan Peninsula for over 1,000 years. On August 22, 2023, exactly 7 years and 5 months after the disappearance of the 3 American divers, a team of Mexican archaeologists conducting underwater surveys of recently discovered Mayan artifacts made a breakthrough discovery that would finally solve the mystery and reveal a truth more extraordinary than anyone had imagined. Dr. Elena Vasquez, leading a joint expedition between Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History and the Underwater Archaeology Department of Harvard University was using advanced sonar equipment to map previously unknown sections of the Dos Ojos cave system when her team detected an unusual chamber that appeared to be artificially constructed rather than naturally formed. The chamber, located nearly 400 feet below the surface and accessible only through a narrow passage that required expert-level cave diving skills, had been completely hidden from previous searches because it was blocked by a collapse that had occurred sometime after the diver's disappearance. When Dr. Vasquez's team finally managed to access the chamber using specialized excavation equipment and underwater drilling tools, they discovered not only the bodies of Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson, but also one of the most significant archaeological finds in Mexican history. The three divers were found in a large air-filled cavern that had been used as a sacred burial chamber by ancient Mayan priests, surrounded by golden artifacts, jade sculptures, and hieroglyphic inscriptions that had been perfectly preserved by the unique environmental conditions of the underwater cave. The condition of the divers' bodies, naturally mummified by the cave's constant temperature and low humidity, allowed forensic experts to determine that they had survived for several days after becoming trapped in the chamber, with evidence suggesting they had attempted to find alternative exit routes before ultimately succumbing to oxygen depletion. Most remarkably, the divers had spent their final days documenting the incredible archaeological treasures surrounding them, with their waterproof cameras containing thousands of photographs of Mayan artifacts and inscriptions that provided unprecedented insights into pre-Columbian civilization and religious practices. Dr. Harrison's underwater notebook, found clutched in his hands, contained detailed scientific observations about the chamber's construction, the preservation of organic materials, and the significance of the artifacts, demonstrating that even facing death, the marine biologist had continued his scientific work until the very end. The discovery chamber was so well preserved that it appeared to have been sealed for over 1,000 years before the divers accidentally broke through during their exploration, making them the first humans to enter the sacred space, since ancient Mayan priests had used it for burial ceremonies and religious rituals. The forensic analysis of the cave chamber and the circumstances of the divers' deaths revealed a tragic sequence of events that began with an extraordinary discovery and ended with three experienced explorers becoming inadvertent guardians of one of archaeology's greatest treasures. Dr. Patricia Morales, the lead forensic anthropologist assigned to the case, determined that Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson had been exploring a narrow passage when they broke through an ancient limestone barrier that had sealed the ceremonial chamber for centuries, causing a partial collapse that blocked their exit route while simultaneously revealing the hidden Mayan burial site. The analysis of their diving equipment showed that they had sufficient air supplies for their planned dive, but the unexpected discovery and subsequent entrapment had forced them to conserve their breathing gas while attempting to find alternative escape routes through the complex cave system. The divers' final photographs and video footage, recovered from their waterproof cameras, documented their growing amazement at the archaeological significance of their discovery. With Rebecca Martinez's camera containing stunning images of golden ceremonial masks, jade jewelry, and stone sculptures that had never been seen by modern eyes, their communications equipment had been damaged during the cave-in that trapped them, preventing them from calling for help or communicating their location to the surface support team, leaving them completely isolated in the chamber with no way to signal their presence to the search teams that were desperately looking for them. The evidence suggested that the three divers had made the conscious decision to document the archaeological treasures they had discovered, understanding that they might not survive to share their findings, but ensuring that their cameras would preserve this incredible discovery for future generations of scientists and archaeologists. Dr. Harrison's final log entries, written on waterproof paper, described the chamber as the most significant underwater archaeological site ever discovered, and included detailed measurements and observations about the artifacts, the chamber's construction, and the preservation conditions that had protected these treasures for over a millennium. The positioning of the bodies indicated that the divers had arranged themselves in a circle around the central altar of the chamber, with their cameras and documentation equipment carefully placed to maximize the chances that their discovery would be preserved even if their bodies were never found. Analysis of the air composition in the sealed chamber revealed that the divers had survived for approximately 5 days after becoming trapped, gradually using up the oxygen in the space, while documenting everything they could about the remarkable archaeological site that had become their final resting place. The tragedy was compounded by the realization that the chamber had multiple connection points to the main cave system. But these passages were too narrow and dangerous for the divers to navigate with their bulky technical diving equipment, leaving them tantalizingly close to potential escape routes that they could see but not access. The revelation of the divers' fate and their incredible archaeological discovery sparked an international sensation that transformed the tragedy into one of the most significant underwater archaeological finds in human history, while finally providing closure for 3 families who had waited 7 years for answers. The Mexican government immediately declared the site a national treasure and established a joint international research project to properly study and preserve the artifacts discovered by Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson, recognizing their inadvertent contribution to our understanding of ancient Mayan civilization. UNESCO designated the chamber as a World Heritage Site and named it the Harrison Martinez Thompson Archaeological Reserve, in honor of the 3 divers whose final act was to document and preserve this incredible piece of human history for future generations to study and appreciate. The families of the 3 divers, while devastated by the confirmation of their loved ones' deaths, found some measure of comfort in knowing that their final days had been spent making one of the most important archaeological discoveries of the 21st century, with their documentation providing invaluable insights into Mayan religious practices and burial customs. Dr. Sarah Harrison worked with Mexican authorities to ensure that her husband's scientific observations and documentation were properly integrated into the archaeological research, while also establishing protocols for the respectful treatment of the divers' remains and the preservation of the site where they had made their final sacrifice for science. The International Cave Diving Safety Foundation used the tragedy to develop new emergency protocols for cave diving expeditions, including mandatory emergency shelter supplies, improved communication equipment, and backup escape route planning that could help prevent future divers from becoming trapped in similar circumstances. The 3 divers were posthumously awarded Mexico's highest civilian honor for their contribution to archaeological science, and their names were permanently inscribed in the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, alongside the most important discoveries in the country's history. The archaeological artifacts they documented were studied by experts from around the world, revealing new information about Mayan trade routes, religious practices, and technological achievements that significantly advanced our understanding of pre-Columbian civilization in the Americas. The chamber where they died was converted into an underwater museum, accessible only to expert divers under strict supervision, ensuring that their discovery could be studied and appreciated while protecting both the site and future visitors from the dangers that had claimed their lives. Their final photographs and videos were compiled into a documentary that won multiple international awards and brought global attention to both the importance of underwater archaeology and the risks faced by those who dedicate their lives to exploring and documenting our planet's hidden treasures. The impact of the Harrison Martinez Thompson discovery extended far beyond archaeology, revolutionizing underwater exploration safety protocols and inspiring new technologies that have made cave diving significantly safer for future generations of explorers and scientists. The International Cave Diving Safety Foundation established new global standards for emergency equipment and communication systems, requiring all technical cave divers to carry backup air supplies, emergency shelters, and satellite communication devices that could function even in deep underwater cave systems. The tragedy led to the development of revolutionary new technologies, including miniaturized underwater drones that could navigate tight cave passages advanced sonar mapping systems that could detect hidden chambers, and emergency breathing apparatus that could extend survival time for trapped divers by up to 72 hours. Mexican authorities implemented comprehensive new safety regulations for cenote diving operations, requiring all dive operators to maintain detailed maps of cave systems, provide emergency response training, and establish direct communication links with national rescue services for immediate assistance in case of emergencies. The three families worked together to establish the Harrison-Martinez-Thompson Research Institute, which funded the development of new underwater exploration technologies and provided scholarships for students studying marine biology, underwater archaeology, and cave diving safety. Universities around the world began offering specialized programs in underwater archaeology, inspired by the divers' discovery, with many institutions requiring students to complete cave diving safety certification as part of their academic training. The Mexican government invested millions of dollars in upgrading cave diving safety infrastructure throughout the Yucatan Peninsula, installing emergency air supplies, communication equipment, and rescue staging areas at major cenote diving sites. The archaeological techniques developed to study the chamber where the divers died became standard protocols for underwater archaeological excavations worldwide, with their documentation methods serving as a model for how to properly record and preserve underwater historical sites. The case inspired changes in international law regarding underwater archaeological discoveries, with new treaties establishing protocols for protecting and studying sites discovered by private explorers while ensuring proper recognition for those who risk their lives to advance human knowledge. Cave diving organizations established annual awards in the names of Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson, recognizing individuals who make significant contributions to diving safety, underwater exploration, or archaeological discovery, while maintaining the highest standards of scientific integrity and personal courage. Their story became required reading in diving instructor certification programs worldwide, teaching new generations of dive professionals about the importance of safety planning, emergency preparedness, and the responsibilities that come with exploring dangerous underwater environments. 10 years after the discovery of the three divers' bodies, their legacy continued to influence underwater exploration, archaeological research, and cave diving safety on a global scale, with their final documentation proving instrumental in revolutionizing our understanding of ancient Mayan civilization. The Harrison-Martinez-Thompson Archaeological Reserve had become one of the most important underwater research sites in the world, with scientists from dozens of countries collaborating on studies that had revealed unprecedented details about Mayan religious practices, trade networks, and technological achievements. The research institute established by their families had funded over 200 projects related to underwater exploration and archaeological research, contributing to discoveries in underwater cave systems around the world, from Florida's springs to Australia's underwater caves and the Mediterranean's submerged ancient cities. The safety protocols developed in response to their deaths had been credited with preventing numerous diving accidents, with the mandatory emergency equipment and communication systems saving the lives of more than 50 cave divers who had become trapped or lost in underwater cave systems since 2023. Dr. Sarah Harrison had become a leading authority on underwater archaeological preservation, working with UNESCO and other international organizations to establish standards for protecting and studying underwater historical sites while ensuring the safety of researchers and explorers. The Mexican government had expanded the archaeological reserve to include the entire Dos Ojos cave system, creating one of the world's largest underwater protected areas, and establishing it as a premier destination for responsible archaeological diving and scientific research. The artifacts documented by the three divers had been studied by experts from around the world, contributing to dozens of academic papers and books that had significantly advanced our understanding of pre-Columbian American civilizations and their connections to other ancient cultures. Cave diving technology had advanced dramatically as a direct result of innovations inspired by the tragedy, with new equipment and techniques making it possible for researchers to safely explore underwater cave systems that would have been too dangerous to enter using the technology available in 2016. The documentary about their final discovery had been translated into 30 languages and shown in schools around the world, inspiring thousands of young people to pursue careers in archaeology, marine biology, and underwater exploration, while emphasizing the importance of safety and preparation. Their photographs and videos from the chamber had been digitized and made available to researchers worldwide, creating a permanent record of one of archaeology's most important discoveries, while honoring the 3 explorers who gave their lives to document these treasures for humanity. The annual memorial dive held in their honor had grown into an international gathering that brought together hundreds of cave divers, archaeologists, and safety experts who shared knowledge, tested new equipment, and continued the work of making underwater exploration safer for future generations. 15 years after the tragic disappearance that ultimately led to one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the modern era, the names Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson had become synonymous with courage, scientific dedication, and the advancement of underwater exploration safety that continued to protect and inspire explorers worldwide. The Harrison-Martinez-Thompson Research Institute had evolved into a global network of underwater research facilities operating on every continent, with advanced diving and archaeological programs that had trained thousands of professionals in safe exploration techniques while contributing to major discoveries in underwater caves, shipwrecks, and submerged ancient cities. The safety technologies and protocols developed in response to their deaths had been adopted by space agencies for underwater astronaut training, by military diving units for special operations, and by commercial diving companies operating in challenging underwater environments, demonstrating the universal applicability of the safety innovations inspired by their sacrifice. The archaeological chamber where they died had been fully excavated and studied, using techniques they had helped pioneer through their final documentation, revealing it to be part of a vast underground Mayan ceremonial complex that had been used for over 500 years before being sealed by natural geological processes. Their discovery had fundamentally changed our understanding of Mayan civilization, revealing sophisticated engineering techniques, complex religious practices, and extensive trade networks that had previously been unknown to archaeologists and historians studying pre-Columbian American cultures. The Mexican government had established the International Center for Underwater Archaeology at the site of their discovery, creating a world-class research facility that attracted scientists and students from around the globe, while serving as a memorial to the 3 explorers who had given their lives to advance human knowledge. The families of the 3 divers had found purpose and healing through their continued work in underwater exploration, safety, and archaeological research, with their efforts preventing numerous tragedies while ensuring that their loved ones' final contribution to science would continue to benefit humanity for generations to come. Universities worldwide had established exchange programs and research partnerships inspired by the collaborative spirit demonstrated by Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson, creating international networks of scholars dedicated to underwater exploration and archaeological research. The advanced cave diving certification programs developed in their memory had become the global standard for technical diving education, with tens of thousands of divers trained in the safety protocols and emergency procedures that bore their names and continued to save lives in underwater environments worldwide. Their story had been immortalized in books, documentaries, museum exhibitions, and educational programs that reached millions of people around the world, inspiring new generations of explorers while emphasizing the importance of safety, preparation, and respect for the dangerous environments that hold our planet's greatest secrets. The chamber where they made their final discovery had been designated as an eternal memorial, with their names permanently inscribed alongside the ancient Mayan inscriptions they had died documenting, creating a unique bridge between ancient and modern civilizations united by the human drive to explore, discover, and preserve knowledge for future generations. Today, 2 decades after 3 brave divers disappeared in the depths of Mexico's underwater caves, their legacy lives on in every safe dive, every archaeological discovery, and every young explorer who ventures into the unknown with proper preparation and respect for the dangers that have claimed so many lives in the pursuit of knowledge. The Harrison Martinez Thompson Archaeological Reserve continues to yield new discoveries, as technology advances allow researchers to explore previously inaccessible areas of the vast Mayan complex, with each new finding adding to our understanding of ancient American civilizations and the sophisticated societies that thrived in the Americas long before European contact. The memorial chamber where the 3 divers spent their final days has become a place of pilgrimage for underwater explorers from around the world, who come not only to pay their respects, but also to be reminded of the responsibilities that come with the privilege of exploring our planet's most dangerous and beautiful environments. The International Cave Diving Safety Foundation operates training centers on 6 continents, having certified more than 100,000 divers in advanced safety techniques, while developing technologies that have revolutionized underwater exploration and made it possible to safely study underwater environments that were previously too dangerous to access. Their families continue to work together through the research institute that bears their names, funding scientific expeditions, developing new safety technologies, and supporting the education of young researchers who share the passion for discovery that drove Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson to dedicate their lives to underwater exploration. The archaeological techniques they pioneered through their final documentation have been applied to underwater sites around the world, contributing to major discoveries in the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, the Pacific, and other underwater regions where ancient civilizations left traces of their existence beneath the waves. The safety protocols that emerged from the investigation of their deaths have been incorporated into international diving standards, space agency training programs, and emergency response procedures used by rescue services worldwide, demonstrating that the lessons learned from tragedy can have benefits far beyond their original context. Their story continues to be told in classrooms, diving centers, and research institutions around the world, inspiring new generations of explorers while teaching the essential lesson that courage must always be balanced with wisdom, preparation, and respect for the forces of nature that can transform discovery into tragedy in an instant. The underwater museum established at the site of their discovery attracts hundreds of thousands of visitors each year, creating a living memorial that educates the public about underwater archaeology while generating funds for continued research and safety development. Harrison, Martinez, and Thompson died pursuing their passion for exploration and discovery. But their final act of documenting one of archaeology's greatest treasures ensured that their legacy would live on in the advancement of human knowledge and the protection of future explorers who follow in their footsteps into the unknown depths of our blue planet.